Hi, it's Friday, 13th of April 2018. Welcome, like every business day, to Real-Time Daily Trading Ideas. We have 5 days a week, 5 different traders. We will speak about trading ideas, strategies, market screening, maybe 1 or 2 questions from your side, directly answered in your webinar. Our goal is quick and smart, so let's have a nice start like every day, and we start like every day with a disclaimer. Forex and CFDs are leveraged products and can result in losses that exceed your deposits. If you're a starter, please start with a demo account and make yourself familiar with long trading, short trading, leverage trading, and your personal risk management. If you'd like to read the full disclaimer, just visit one of our web pages, for example, admiralmarkets.com, and everything will be to find there. This is me. My name is Jens. I'm talking from the Berlin office from Admiral Markets. We are a big international broker, over 18 country offices, so I'm the German guy. My English is made in Germany maybe too, but some of my quality too, but I'm not the main speaker. The main speaker is the day trader of today. This is our usual scheme. On Monday, it's Jay's day. On Tuesday, it's Paul's day. On Wednesday, it's Giancarlo's day. On Thursday, it's Leonard's day. And usually on Friday, it's Dirk's day. Dirk can't hold the webinar today, so today it will be Paul again. Thanks for that, Paul. Our leading day traders live every day. And of course, if you'd like to trade Forex and CFDs, you will get many benefits only with Admiral Markets. For example, one of our bestsellers, DAX 30 CFD, typical split of just 0.8 points to the main trading hours, choosable leverage, MT4 or MT5, choose your platform, and of course, safeguards like our negative balance protection policy, all details on admiralmarkets.com. They will find also something about our regulatory background and how to contact us. You can call us, you can send us email, or visit the other channels like YouTube. Usually all the webinars will be recorded and a couple of hours later available on our YouTube channel. That's enough from my side. Now, hi, good morning, good day, Paul. What's your view to the market today? Thanks for jumping in for Dirk today.
Good morning. Good morning, Jens, and thank you for that. Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear my voice. I hope you can all see my screens there. Yes, this morning it's 13th of April. I'm stepping in for Dirk, and we'll have a little bit of a look through the markets. It's been an interesting week, ladies and gentlemen. There's been quite a lot going on, and I appreciate that some of the people joining us today may not be not used to sort of hearing my take on the market. So I'll give you a little bit of explanation about how I view and look at things. So yesterday we had the ECB minutes, and I think the euros are sort of rather dovish after those, or rather dovish minutes that gave us a sort of a little bit of a bearish slant on the euro, and I'm going to look at that in detail in a moment. But just to begin with, I appreciate we've got new traders here, traders who may not have heard me before. When I look at my charts, you can see they're quite simple. I have a blue 20-period moving average, a red 50-period moving average, and a green 200-period moving average. I have, green bullish candles, red bearish candles. I have fractals, and then you'll see I'll draw in some levels of support and resistance. I in particular like to look at the big picture, look at what you'll hear me talk about, like the larger trades, the bigger, maybe the swing trades, the position trades, and also would talk a little bit about the sort of intraday trades. What are the sort of intraday trading action that we can look at? So here we are looking at the dollar index. Okay, if we're going to trade FX, then invariably we always need to know what's the score with the dollar. The dollar is the daddy when it comes to the FX market. So we always want to know whether it's awake, whether it's asleep, whether it's angry, so that we can judge how that will work in relation to the other major FX pairs. So what I'm looking at here is the dollar index on the weekly chart. And what I see at the moment is actually the dollar's a little bit asleep at the moment, and actually what I can see here is that, we've had around about that 89 level, we've had it as a level of support, and now I see kind of price there just almost coiling up, okay, just almost coiling up there, okay. We can see it's sort of forming a sort of a wedge pattern, maybe some people might call it a triangle. I'd look at that as a little bit of a wedge. Its price is coiling up. It's basically it's the sort of calm before the storm. That's the way I like to think of it. All right, and just so I take that into note, and we're going to look at that in a little bit more detail when we go into the sort of the euro pairs. That's it on the daily chart, and as I said, around about 88 to sort of 88.75 to 89 has been acting as support, and I just see price coiling up. It's getting ready to do something. something, and what I like to do is I trade what I see, and that what helps me with that is when I look at how that dollar is maneuvering itself in relation to the other major FX pairs. And that kind of leads us on to the sort of the euro dollar itself. I'm just going to move this across here, and we'll have a little look at that now. So if I go to the euro dollar, here we go on the weekly chart. Let me zoom in a bit here. So we've just looked at the dollar index on the weekly chart, and not surprisingly, I talked about how it was sort of coiling up. We had a little bit of a wedge, so it's not really a shock when I look at the euro dollar. Okay, that in fact I'm seeing almost the same pattern in reverse. For those of you who are completely new to trading, the dollar index is made up from a basket of currencies, and I think it's about 57% of it is made up of the euro. So not unsurprisingly, the dollar index and the euro dollar can be quite sort of inversely correlated in that sense. So I see a particular pattern on dollar index. It's not a shock to see a similar pattern on the euro dollar. I've had a short position here on the euro dollar. Those of you who've joined me on the Tuesday sessions, we've had a short position here for a while, but now I'm starting to see, as I said, I'm starting to see it coil up a little bit. Okay, it's coiling up there on the weekly chart. That kind of 125 level has acted as some really super resistance. And if I go down to the daily chart, okay, what I'm looking at is prices just it's that coiling that up. You can see there 125 has acted as significant resistance. We've had a few short trades here that are still running, okay, from up around about the 124.50 level. But I'm just going to sort of watch and wait and see what happens. We're not helped by some of President Trump's comments. Yesterday he was threatening World War III with Russia. Today he's a little bit more sanguine about it, and it may not happen. And of course, that sort of that kind of swings there has causes a little bit of anxiety in traders, and so it's not unsurprising to see we've seen some sort of volatile moves as this week has gone on. But we had the euro dollar there is I still have a bearish slant to it. It's coiling up. We had those ECB minutes there yesterday, which were dovish, and what that led was a little bit of a euro sell-off across the board, and this starts to interest me. Okay, this is what starts to get me interested. Quickly looking at euro sterling on the weekly chart. Okay, those of you who join me, I've talked about 87.50 has been a real significant level of support there on the weekly chart, and we can see for about the last 6 months, in fact you might say for almost the last sort of 10 months, it's acted as a real significant level. But over the last week or so, on the weekly chart, we've closed beneath it and continued, and as you can see this week, over the last 24 hours, that has continued to collapse. So that's telling me that we're having euro weakness, okay. We're also getting sterling strength, and we've had some significant sterling strength over the last couple of days. If I look at the euro sterling there, I don't have a trade right this moment on here. What I'd be looking for is to wait for us to maybe pull back, okay, maybe to pull back up towards around about that sort of 86, 80, 80, sort of 87 level, maybe bounce off the sort of 20 period moving average on the daily chart, and then I'd be looking to sort of sell the rallies in that if we continue to see this euro weakness, sterling strength. So there's not a trade on that right this moment, but keep an eye on it because it's telling us an awful lot about the sort of the position of the euro and also the strength of the sterling. But here we go. Let's have a look at a particular trade idea that we can come up with. This is the sort of let's call it like the big trade. All right. So what we can look at is I'm looking at the euro Aussie, okay, the euro Aussie. For the this is the weekly chart, okay, and you can see for since how long we're looking there, about sort of 14, 15 months, that has actually been one-way traffic. It's been a lovely trade, okay. What we've had there is, and particularly from April of last year after the French elections, we've had euro strength and Aussie weakness, and that has just sort of put in a lovely trend, and there's been some great opportunities to get part of that. But we got up to this 160 level, all right? We got up to this 160, big round psychological number, and invariably, what I look for is to see, what happens when price does that. And when I go down to the daily chart, what I start to see is this pattern emerge. This is a head and shoulders pattern, okay? Here we have the sort of the left shoulder, we have a head, and we have a right shoulder here as well, okay? So that's telling me, I've just looked at euro weakening against sterling. I've just looked at sort of euro being indecisive against the US dollar. I'm starting to get maybe a picture that perhaps maybe we'll see just, a few weeks of euro weakness. That's all. I'm not saying that'll be the trend for the year, but I just think that maybe, the people who've been buying euro are taking some profit. We're at particular levels, 125 in euro dollar, 87.50 in euro sterling, 160 euro Aussie, and I just think there'll be elements of taking some profit off that level. So here we have an opportunity there. Okay, I see this kind of an interesting opportunity. What I'm looking at is, I see this as a small head and shoulders, and what I'm looking at is, I'm looking to sort of use the mini terminal on the Admiral sort of Supreme Edition of MetaTrader 4. Constantly going on how wonderful it is, how it makes trading much easier. I'm going to expect maybe a little bit of a reaction, a little bit of a sort of a pull back up towards our level here. So I'm going to be looking for a short order there around about 158.90. That's what I'm looking at in the region of. My stop is going to be just above the sort of 20 period moving average there, which would be about 59.90. But we're getting very close to that big psychological number. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add in a little bit more to take us about 61. 60.10, just above the big psychological number. Now, those of you who know classical technical analysis would know that, you normally extend from the neckline to the head, and then you would sort of forecast that forward. So we would normally have a target down around about 155.95. But I'm just a little bit wary that, we might sort of see these particular levels of support we saw before. So my target is going to be around about the 156.50 level. Okay, that's what my target is going to be there, just in front. So, what I'm doing there is, I'm risking, 120 pips of trade risk for a possible 240 of pips of profit. So it's a 2-to-1 trade. Those of you who know me, I'm always looking to take an asymmetric reward to risk ratio. Okay, if I'm going to risk 100 euros, then I want to make 200 euros, 300, 400. That's the way I like to trade. Okay, that's the way I like to look at it. Now, just before I quickly leave this to move on to the DAX. One of the other reasons that my target is a little bit tighter there, okay, than the sort of the classical forecast, is because what I see is that there's absolutely an opportunity that we may be seeing an even bigger sort of head and shoulders pattern being created here. So here we have the head. Maybe what we might see is that this becomes the left shoulder, in which case don't be surprised if I wouldn't be surprised if I saw price come down to that level, all right, come down to that zone, and then come back up to form the sort of the final big right shoulder before a possible move down. So that's my kind of scenario analysis. I see a head and shoulders here. I can have a nice trade with asymmetric reward to risk, but I'm also recognizing or cognizant of the fact that we could be having a bigger picture sort of building up there. So if we have had euro weakness, is that what we've seen? Then I would lead me to believe that we might see a bit of strength in the DAX. So why don't we take a little look at that to finish off, and then what we can do is we can answer any questions you might have just to sort of end the session. So let's have a look. All right, let's bring up the DAX. What have we got here? Let's have a look on the weekly chart. It's a bit scruffy. Okay, maybe we'll go down to the daily. So here we go. Here's the daily chart on the DAX. Those of you who've been, following my sessions are talking about how, I had a bearish bias. We could see that, we all had basically lower highs along the way. But not surprisingly, okay, this last week, what we've seen is, we saw that low in the sort of region of 11,750. And we've pushed higher, and as we've seen weakness in the euro, it's not been unsurprising to see a little bit of strength in the DAX over the last week or so, and hopefully you can see that there. That's been quite a strong move north. A little bit of that perhaps following on by some of the comments that have flowed through the US indices, but nevertheless, as we've seen euro weaken, DAX has been strengthening. And now what I see is, let's say, the bigger trade, the bigger picture, is that it wouldn't surprise me for price maybe to sort of drift up towards the 200 period moving average there. Okay, it's we can just Wouldn't surprise me to see there, if I'm just going to put my cursor on, okay, wouldn't surprise to see us drift up there to around about that 12,660 level. It might take a little bit of time to get there, but what I'm interested in is here, we had a recent high here, and I'm sort of, we fell away from that pretty strongly. And so as we get up here, it wouldn't surprise me on an intraday basis to see some sort of profit taking, to see some little shorts, okay. And so let's maybe take a little quick look down and see if there's any trade opportunities there. So we're just getting into what we'd call like a sort of a bearish order block on the sort of 4-hourly chart. Not really anything there to interest me. The hourly is not really interesting me there, okay. 30 minutes, we started to get a little bit of a pin bar here, okay. Not a perfect one, but it looks like a little bit of a false breakout as well. And so just before we came on air, I was looking here, okay, at the sort of the shorter time frames, and here we had, the 15-minute chart, okay, we've had a nice run up over the last couple of days. We're running to where we think there'll be some sellers, and actually what we've done is, there's a nice sort of bearish pin bar there that's given us a little bit of a false breakout after the last high, and it's just pushed up. And so I'm going to look to test the market. So I had a little order here on just before we came on. I'm going to test and see if we'll get a little bit of an intraday short, okay, just some profit taking as we run towards the Friday lunchtime. So I had a little short here, okay, trade, and my entry order was about 12,474. My stop loss was 12,485, just above the high of there, so about 11 ticks of trade risk, and my target's down around about 12,437. Okay, so I'm risking 11 ticks of trade risk for approximately 37 ticks of profit. Okay, so that gives me about a 3.3 reward to risk. Okay, once again, we're always coming back to that asymmetric reward to risk ratio. Now it might happen that the price rolls over, falls down, comes back to that sort of area, that level where my target is, before it then sort of makes its larger, longer drift up towards that 200. And that's fine. This is an intraday trade. I'm not looking to hold it forevermore. It'll just look to run and see if it gets triggered and played out during this session. So that's what we have there. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. I had a little bit of a fast run through of a few charts. I always like to try and put on, sort of some of the, let's say, some of the bigger positions, and also, maybe an intraday trade as well. So if there's any time left, Jens, I'd be very happy to answer if there's a question or two that would help our listeners.
We have 2 or 3 minutes more, so let's take a look also to Brent, the oil markets. Hot interest from our participants today.
Okay, so let's have a look at Brent. Okay, we can bring the chart up here. Okay, just very simply, I have a template here, just Paul basic. Okay, remember what I was saying? It's just looking at, excuse me, the blue is a 20 simple period moving average, the red is a 50 simple moving, and the green is a 200. All right, so we've just talked a little bit there earlier about head and shoulders, an inverse head and shoulders pattern, and and as soon as I see Brent here, okay, what I'm looking at is on the weekly chart, I like to start on the bigger picture and drill down. Is that I see here, we had an inverse head and shoulders pattern. We had the left shoulder here, the head, and then the right shoulder. We actually had a little bit of a, you might say we had this was probably the final right shoulder before we've had this lovely trend for since the summer of last year. Let's zoom down a little bit. We can see that has moved there. It's been a love move. We had a little bit, not surprising. We had a bit of profit taking in February, and we had that little hiccup in exciting markets. And not surprisingly, this week with some of the, let's say, some of the rhetoric around about trouble and geopolitical strife in the Middle East, that's had a knock-on effect there. So, as always, what I look to do is just looking to draw in any particular significant levels of support and resistance that might, be of interest to me going forward. And if I go down the charts, well, what we saw over this week is, we've just seen that rally. We've had a rally right up above 70, okay? And on the daily chart, we've been closing above it, okay? We've been closing above it, and that kind of interests me. And what I'm always interested to see is, are we gonna kiss that area goodbye, whether it be a trend line, whether it be a support or resistance? So, what I'd be interested to see is, do we get a little bit of a pushback towards the 70 area before we get a move upwards? All right, as prices broken into this area, we're going to see, areas like that. We're going to see prices move. There'll be lots of people with stops here. There'll be lots of people with sell orders, buy orders. Okay, and so we'd keep an eye on it. And if I go down quickly, what I see there is, at that moment on the 4-hour chart, I see that as a possible 1, 2, 3 reversal pattern just forming there. Okay, I'd see that as the 1, as the 2, as the 3. So not surprisingly, we might definitely get that sort of opportunity for price to just, here we go, for price to just sort of, you know, fall back towards that area for the day, okay, drift back from about 72.80 down to around about 71.40, 71.50, drift there as an intraday trade before we see maybe, you know, a decision point on whether we're going to get ready to sort of move ourselves north. So there you go. I hope that helps, Jens.
Thanks a lot. Tomorrow is another day, but tomorrow is Saturday, so I wish you a great weekend already today. And if you'd like to join the next webinar, it's on Monday. So Monday to Friday, 5 days a week, 5 different traders. Hope to see you all again. Thanks, Paul. Have a nice weekend also you, and
Thanks.
greetings from Berlin. Bye-bye.